Well, Anthony, you've just come off the training pitch. Do the players know the team for the first test yet?
No, we don't. I think we're due to find out in a meeting this afternoon before we go out for the afternoon session. So we should find out pretty imminently now.
So it's a two-session day today. What was this morning's session like?
This morning sessions was good. The backs, we went through some of our plays and we went through some of our edge attack, edge defence, kicking game, that type of stuff. But everyone was revved up. Everyone was. There's a different kind of aura around the place, when it's test week and when everyone's trying to put their best foot forward in every moment in training and stuff like that. So it was very good. It was competitive, and I'm sure this afternoon will be the same, if not more, ramped up.
You've been relatively lightly used so far, only 2 appearances in South Africa. Are you happy with the balance of rest and the amount of games that you've had to be ready for test week?
I mean, it is what it is. I feel like I'm ready, yeah. I've played a lot of rugby this year generally anyway, so, anytime you get the opportunity to play for the Lions, it's a privilege. So if I'd played more, I would have been happy. But the positive for me is that my body feels good. I was able to have that injection in my toe, which I needed after the Japan game. And so I feel great for it. So, either way, you can look at it however you want, but I'm in a good place, which is the main thing.
It's fair to say wing and fullback have seen some pretty impressive performances on tour so far, though. Selection is going to be tough in those areas, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think, that was always going to be the case when you pick the quality of players that were picked, with Liam and Hoggy at the back. They're both unbelievable players, probably up there with the best in the world in their positions. And then the same with the wing when you've got Dewey, Josh and Zamo. All of them have got different skill sets, but all at the top of their game. So, whichever way it goes, the guys who aren't playing will be supporting the guys who are playing and trying to prepare them as best as they can. But in terms of the group itself, I think the back three is a very, very tight group. We all get along very well. We're trying to help each other. So, I think from that perspective, it's great.
You started all 3 tests in New Zealand, therefore you've clearly got a head coach who believes in you. Does that count for anything this week as they pick the team for Saturday, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I don't know. I'm not really too bothered, to be honest with you, mate. It's not my decision to make. It's Gatz's. I was fortunate enough to play in the last 3 tests last time, but it's a completely different series. It's a completely different opposition. There's, a whole host of different things to think about compared to last time. So, if it stands me in good stead, cool. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not really something that I think too much about, because it's just energy that I could be using for something else.
You mentioned 2017 there. You proved that you can come back from losing the first test in a Lions series, but it is very difficult against this kind of opposition, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not ideal. I don't think that's going to be going through anyone's mind who's playing this week for sure. It's important to get off to a good start. So I don't know what's happened with the. It's important to get off to a good start 100% against these guys, and we showed in the first, or in that South Africa A game even, that if you get off to a bad start, it's very difficult to come back. So that's a kind of on a smaller scale of when you look at the entire series as a whole, how important it is to try and get off to a good start, not only in the game but in the series.
Someone's got to go head-to-head with Cheslin Colby. How do you approach that? Do you say that we're going to come up with a plan that completely negates him, or do you approach it from maybe a slightly more realistic thing of saying, look, he's going to have an impact. What we have to do is make that impact as small as possible?
I don't really know. I don't look at it like that. I think whoever's up against him this week will just have to make sure they do their homework and they make sure that they do all the extras in training to make sure that they're ready for the things that the threats he possesses. Everyone's aware of his skill set and how much he can influence a game. So I think it's important for the winger and 13, whoever's playing against him this week, to make sure that they're ready for that by testing themselves as much as they can in training to be prepared for the weekend. But you can flip it on its head and try and look at where you can expose him, on a one-to-one basis as well. It's not all just about him going forward. He's also got to defend whoever's against him. So, it's not, it's not a one-way battle.
And just finally from me, the South Africans are actually announcing their 23 this lunchtime. That's 48 hours earlier than they needed to. That's a punchy call, isn't it?
I don't know, mate. For me, anyway, it just doesn't change anything. If they want to name their team early, then crack on. It doesn't change what we do. I don't see it as a massive deal, if I'm honest.
Thank you, Anthony.
Cheers, mate.
Hi, Anthony. What can you learn from the 2019 World Cup final that will stand you in good stead for this game?
I think the kicking game, the importance of the kicking and aerial game, I think that was huge in that World Cup final. I think we came up second best to them. They definitely dominated us in that area, got great momentum and great field position from that area, and that kind of gave them the leg up that they needed. Similar to the South Africa A game, as well as the World Cup final, again, the start was huge. We didn't put ourselves in good positions in either of those two games, and therefore, found ourselves kind of trying to claw our way back into the game, which is much more difficult against a team like South Africa. So those are the 2 points that I kind of see in the World Cup final and in the South Africa A game.
A lot's spoken about South Africa's pack and how strong their forwards are. But what's it like playing against them from a back's perspective?
It's pretty similar. I think they've got a bit more subtlety in their backs in terms of, they've got some individual players who have got a very rounded skill set. Guys like Willie Leroux, Cheslin, Diolande, those guys, Pollard. They're more, they can be physical, but they've also got some good footwork, some good skill set and stuff like that. So it's just about being prepared. For me, I feel that, if you do your due diligence in terms of your homework, you know what they like to do in certain positions, you know what you can expect in certain areas of the field. It puts you in good stead come Saturday. So that's the most important thing, I feel.
Okay, thank you.
Anthony, how's it going? Can I just follow up on the kicking game and the aerial game? You mentioned there how important it's going to be. There's going to be plenty of kicks. What goes into actually doing well in that area and dealing with that threat?
Mate, there's so many components to it that I don't think are recognised widely. I think, first and foremost, the quality of the kick. That's important for whichever team's kicking the ball. Secondly is, if you're chasing, is trying to compete in the air wherever possible. Decision making on whether to go up and compete, whether to try and catch the ball, try and tap the ball back, try and wait for them to land and then counter ruck. There's quite a few decisions to be made when it comes to kick chase. If the kick's a little bit too long, making sure that you're not disconnected from whoever's inside you. And then on the flip side, it's making sure that you try and negate their kick chase by making sure you're aware of where their chaser is, whether he's going to try and compete in the air, and try and kind of protect whoever's catching the ball. But, there's also obviously the skill set of being able to catch the ball, having the confidence of being able to get up in the air, and trusting that you're ready for that, because it's coming.
Yeah, just on that escorting stuff, how tricky has that become? Because we've seen, even there's one, I think Wayne Barnes gave one in this series for escorting off the ball. How tricky has it become to get that balance right? Yeah,
it is tricky. I think you've just got to be aware of where the opposition chaser is, and you can't change your line. So for me, I just try and work back as hard as I can with the person inside me and straight back to the catcher. That's what I feel is the best way of dealing with it, because like you said, any change of line, they're going to be hot on it, and it's just a silly penalty to give away.
Lastly, for me, how tricky or how easy is it to build a kind of understanding with other guys who are working on the edge and in the backfield? Because obviously there's so many stresses there against the box. How have you found that side of the game developing?
I wouldn't say completely easy, but the guys here, like I said, in terms of the back three group and the centres are, are very close, and we tell each other what we need, what we like, etc., etc., and that helps. And it works with the centres as well. I think particularly having guys like, Robbie Henshaw in the middle, who's played at 12, 13, played a bit of fullback. Same with Elliott. Bundy's played 12 and 13. Chris Harris has played 12 and 13. A lot of guys along the whole back line have interchanged positions, and I think that that's very helpful in terms of understanding what specific people or specific positions, need in specific situations. Because you then are able to help out a lot more and are more understanding of situations where positions are isolated or pressurised. So I don't think it's been too difficult. I think everyone's very on the same page and everyone is very understanding.
Okay, cheers. Enjoy the week.
Thank you.
Hi Anthony, how are you keeping? Just in terms of preparation this week, is it very much very robotic? We train, we go back to the room, we do analysis, or is it important to make sure that you're still having a bit of fun this week and don't let be overcome by the occasion, because it's the test arena, it's as big as it gets.
Yeah, I think everyone's different. I think everyone understands when we're on the training pitch, it's important when training is actually going on to be 100% switched on. But you can enjoy it whilst being switched on. I don't think that there's a massive, it's not one or the other. It's not a complete joke, and it's not, no laughing, no smiling. It's on. I think that's what's great about this environment, is that there's understanding of individuals and personalities, and I'm never going to be the guy who's, super aggressive and flying around training, because I like to enjoy it, and I feel like that's what gets the best out of me, and that's why, like I said, the environment is so good. But in test week, there will be a heightened edge to it. But when you go back to your rooms, everyone is definitely switched off, and I think that that's really important, because if you start getting too hyped too early in a week like this, is when you get to the game and you're emotionally drained. So managing that balance all week will be important for the guys who are playing, and I'm sure that the staff and everyone is understanding of that.
Good stuff. Best of luck out of the team announcement. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi Anthony, Will here. How's it going?
Hey mate, you okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. Just thinking about the last 4 years you've had since that New Zealand series, a fair bit's happened in your career on and off the pitch. How do you feel you've kind of grown as a person and as a player? How you think you've developed in that interim period?
I think my understanding of rugby generally has probably improved. I think, without going into too much detail, my perception and appreciation of the sport has definitely increased. I love what I do. I wouldn't change it for the world, and I've enjoyed this trip a lot. I've enjoyed being around the boys this trip a lot more than the last one, perhaps obviously because I'm older. But it's just been great. It's just been great being around the guys, and I'm just enjoying it. In terms of what's changed, yeah, apart from feeling like I understand the game a bit better, I feel like all round I've improved. So I've just got to keep on that same trajectory, I guess, and keep going.
Have you almost tried to take things in a bit more, perhaps, this time, that it is your second trip? You've sort of had a chance to reflect as you're going, rather than just going day to day, week to week, match to match? Yeah,
probably. I think as well, I've probably, like I said, socialised a bit more with people that I otherwise wouldn't have. I think particularly because of what happened after the trip last time, in terms of going to Vegas with Tig and a few other guys that I would have never imagined going on a trip with beforehand. I think that kind of opened my eyes to the relationships you can build on tours like this with people that you didn't think you would. And I think that's kind of allowed me to grow closer to the group and be more in and amongst everyone, as opposed to the same usual people that I would be otherwise with.
Back to Vegas if you win the series this time?
I wish. I don't think they're letting anyone in from South Africa, but I'd definitely be up there if I could.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Right, thanks all. Thank you.